Guilty Crown was one of the first anime I ever watched, and I held it in fairly high regard because of that. Now, after injecting all 22 episodes in a row straight into my brain, I can certainly say that Guilty Crown is the perfect example of youthful ignorance. And what I mean by that is the show is hot garbage. I'm not gonna beat around the bush here. Anybody that cares about Guilty Crown knows exactly how bad it is. Even though it's fucking terrible, it's still watchable. What got me so into the show way back when still holds, and that's the show looks damn good. But don't let that distract you though, because pretty much everything else about Guilty Crown is complete shite, and from what I've seen, there doesn't seem to be anybody sticking their neck out for this show either, like there is for, I don't know, like, Dan Matchy and SAO. Yeah. It's a pretty well-known fact that Guilty Crown is pretty fucking bad. Oh, why is it bad though, you ask? Well, for starters, let's talk about the characters and the plot here at the same time, because the god-awfulness of one can't possibly exist without the other. Together, hand in hand, like a suicidal truck driver who's destined to take his vehicle into the afterlife with him.
One of the things I like to do in my shows is complain.
Meet Shu Oma, a dull, antisocial, bratty asshole. He'll be your main character for the next 22 episodes. Please try to enjoy yourself. He's obsessed with this hot idol singer chick, Inari, because this wouldn't be a shitty anime if a horny teenager wasn't the main character. Well, he's not that horny, honestly, but this being a contrived as hell show, the writers seem to go out of the way to throw Shu into situations where people can call him a pervert and smack him around. Anyway, Inari one day shows up in this abandoned warehouse Shu hangs out in, and surprise, she's in with a terrorist organization called Funeral Parlor, but they're actually the good guys, because this wouldn't be a shitty anime if the rebel group of thugs wasn't secretly the good guys. She's got a special thingamadoodle with her that's supposed to be for the leader of Funeral Parlor, but she got hurt stealing it, and now the evil government people are taking it away. Quick! You're about to be taken away by the evil government, but you still have to deliver the special thingamadoodle to Funeral Parlor. Do you leave it with this random walking autism awareness billboard you just met, or do you take the chance, fight back, and attempt to complete your mission without involving innocent bystanders? Obviously, you leave it with this clod and tell him to deliver it, because everything's gonna work out great. It's all gonna be daijoubu. But wouldn't you know it, the dumb kid fucks it all up and the magic thingamadoodle gets used on him instead, and now you have a whole 22 episode science fiction anime series that you have to deal with because of it. Well done. Let's back up to our main character, because I don't think I got across just how much of a terrible lead he is. He's a character you just want to slap all the time for being a total boneheaded retard, which actually several of the characters in the show do. Shu gets slapped a lot, but does that stop him from being an awful lead character? No. No, it doesn't. I would talk about Inari next, but honestly, she's so bland that I really had to search for things that actually define her as a character. Let's see, she does, the singing real good, and can shoot the guns real nice. Tits and ass real nice. Hey, speaking of, let's talk about tits and ass. Now, I don't have a problem with most fan service, but only if it doesn't feel forced. The fan service in Guilty Crown is some of the worst implemented tits and ass I've ever seen in anime. And it finally came to a head when one of the few actually likable characters of the cast dies later on in the show, and one of the final shots of her death is of her fat ass. Like, at this point, it's just disrespectful to both the character and the audience to do that. Like, the show wants me to believe that it has strong female characters in the way of Ayase, the paralyzed robot pilot girl, but every time she crashes into something, her melons are flip-flopping all over the screen. Like, Jesus Christ, treat your characters with some respect. Sorry, I got a little side boob. Fuck. Sidetracked there. There's actually one more main character, Guy, who doesn't completely suck. For the first 12 episodes, he's the closest the show comes to a fully realized character with depth and emotions, which of course goes completely out the window in the end of the series because the writers need somebody to act like a huge ass crack to make the rest of the terrible cast seem moderately redeemable. Now, the absolute worst part of Guilty Crown by far is the writing. You remember the intro to Toy Story 3 with the train and the monkeys and all that? Yeah, it didn't make any sense, but it was still fun because it was the imagination of a child. Guilty Crown is the same way, except it's only occasionally fun and was written by a team of fully grown adults. The rules of the show stay fairly straightforward for the first half, but everything goes absolutely tits up after the 12th episode. Like, things are going smoothly, and everything makes sense, and then a character that has yet to be introduced to the audience opens up a portal in space and time or some shit, snags Inari, drags her through. Oh yeah, he also has the same powers as Shu, which the show doesn't bother explaining until the final episode of the series, where it's revealed that he's a god and created some sort of secret society or some. I couldn't really find it in me to care, since the rules of the universe the show is set in were completely overrun by hot dripping bullshit at this point. Allow me to try and explain it for you so you can understand my frustration. Shu's void power has the ability to manifest people's hearts as items. Okay. Whenever he manifests a heart, the person it belongs to is rendered unconscious. Okay, fine. But after episode 12, he can manifest hearts without knocking people out, manifest several at once and then swap them out like a video game inventory, and he can even let people hold and use their own hearts. Like, what the hell, show? You can't just expect me to take things seriously if you're just gonna make shit up as you go along. There's a bit in episode 12 where Guy literally disintegrates. Like, he's gone. Only for the show to bring him back later as the final boss and not explain how anybody is able to recover after that shit. And this brings me right back to the characters, whose personalities change on a whim depending on how the plot needs them to act, which is fucking annoying and shitty and dumb. And if you're ever writing anything, don't do it. Everybody's betraying everybody for no purpose other than because the plot demands it, and that's a problem. Don't even get me started on all the other shit. I'll just shotgun round it for you, how's that? Implied incest. Attempted assault. Enough assholes that SAO seems serious in comparison. Oh, so we can just combine voids now and make a super void? Yeah, that's cool. Villains with unclear motives beyond, whee, fuck the earth! Alright. Before my brain gets turned into gravy, let me go over some of the things about Guilty Crown that I actually enjoyed.
Vast nothingness.
Just kidding. Although it really does only boil down to two things, the first of which being the visuals. Guilty Crown might be shit. No. Guilty Crown is shit, but at least it's still enjoyable to watch. The animation is incredible and rarely ever breaks quality, and the integration of CGI is honestly some of the best I've ever seen. Guilty Crown aims to distract you with pretty colors and flashy action scenes, and sometimes it works. The show is at its absolute best when it's just funeral parlor doing funeral parlor things and running missions. Episodes 4, 6, and 7 are actually all very good, and I wish the rest of the show were able to keep up that level of quality. Episode 4 even contains what I consider to be my favorite action scene in any anime I've watched. Shu's completely surrounded, but he pulls a gravity gun as this dude's void, uses it on the entire room, and everything, including the water from the fountain, starts floating away. Then, Inari jumps from the ceiling, Shu runs up the water droplets, pulls a giant-ass sword from her chest, and just destroys all the robots. So cool. And then when Hiroyuki Sawano's epic soundtrack kicks in, just chills every fucking time, man. The soundtrack is also what holds this show together, from the egoist insert songs to one of the best soundtracks Hiroyuki Sawano ever composed. Guilty Crown makes sure your ears and your eyes are having a good time, even when your brain is not. And even though I've been raking the cast over the coals, there are some genuinely not terrible characters. Do they have fully realized arcs? Well, no. But they don't act like trolls, so special mention to Shu's mom, Ayase, Tsugumi, the big-ass weapons dude, and the blondie hair dude. There's a few others I didn't mention, but, you know, who really gives a shit? Guilty Crown is a beautiful mess. I think that's the best way to describe it. I made a thread on A to see what they thought of it, and I kinda have to agree with the general consensus. The pros and the cons pretty much balance each other out into a completely forgettable viewing experience. Although I apparently missed out on the weekly watch-along threads, which was pretty much the best part of the show. And I think that sums it up pretty well. It really is enjoyable to watch as a turn-your-brain-off sort of show, but I don't think that excuses the content of the show from being total trash. Do I recommend you watch Guilty Crown? Nah.